Bronny James made a mistake. And the moment he made that mistake, one of the biggest names in NBA history stepped in and shut him down completely, in front of everybody, publicly, without any hesitation. And what happened after that? LeBron James reacted in a way that the entire NBA community was not ready for. This story has so many layers to it. It is not just about Bronny joking around about NBA legends. It is not just about Shaq checking him publicly. This is really about a war that has been going on between the old generation and the new generation of NBA players for years now. And Bronny James, a kid who just wanted to play basketball, got caught right in the middle of it. Very beginning. Because to understand why Shaq reacted the way he did toward Bronny, you have to understand the bigger picture first. You have to understand the problem Shaq has had with this entire generation of NBA players. Not just one player, not just one incident, the whole generation. Shaquille O'Neal has been one of the loudest voices criticizing today's NBA players. And this is not something he just started doing recently. This has been going on from around 2021 all the way through 2026. 5 years of hammering the same message on TNT, on his podcast, on social media, everywhere he has a microphone and a camera. His whole argument comes down to a few simple things. He believes that today's players are making way more money than the legends ever made. And in his mind, those big paychecks have convinced these young players that they are better than the guys who came before them. He also believes that when legends like himself or Charles Barkley give criticism to younger players, these guys get defensive instead of just listening and learning. And the third thing Shaq keeps pointing to is that the modern NBA has gone soft. Fewer hard fouls, more sitting out of games for rest, more complaining about schedules and travel. He said it himself in plain words. Guys are making way more than we did, so in their minds they think they're better. That one sentence right there tells you everything about where Shaq is coming from. He is not saying these players have no talent. He is saying they have no humility. He is saying that when a legend steps in and tells them what they need to fix, instead of taking notes, they go on social media and call that legend a hater. And Shaq has not been shy about calling players out by name when he feels like it. One minute he is talking about Dwight Howard and his contract. The next minute he's comparing Joel Embiid to Giannis Antetokounmpo and saying that Embiid plays soft. He actually spelled it out on national television. He said Embiid is playing S-O-F-T, soft, capital letters. He spelled it out like he was making sure nobody missed it. And when his co-hosts told him that was harsh, Shaq did not blink. He did not back down. He just held firm. That is Shaq's formula. He sees a weakness, he calls it out in the most direct language possible, and when people react, he doubles down. He has said over and over again that he knows what greatness looks like because he played against Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, and John Stockton. He has said that current players do not carry the same kind of fear that Jordan and Kobe used to create on the court, and that bothers him. It tells him that the respect for what the old generation built is slowly disappearing. In February 2026, Shaq went on social media and wrote something that got a huge reaction. He wrote, "Because y'all accept mediocrity and us legends don't. This is why the game sucks." That was not aimed at one player. That was aimed at everyone. The players, the fans, the entire culture of the modern NBA. In Shaq's eyes, standards have dropped across the board. Young players sit out games when they're perfectly healthy. The league is handing out fines and suspensions for hard fouls that used to just be basketball. And these young guys who benefit from all the rule changes have the nerve to act like the legends criticizing them are just jealous old men.
He addressed that directly too. He said, "Stop being sensitive because I know what I'm talking about, and you know I know what I'm talking about." That is Shaq telling an entire generation to sit down and listen. Now here is something interesting that Shaq actually admitted on the record. He said some of this does come from a place of jealousy, but not jealousy over talent, jealousy over money. He has said openly that when he sees players getting $200 million contracts for averaging 11 points a game, it stings. He made that comparison on Inside the NBA. He looks at what these players earn today, then he looks at what they actually produce on the court, and in his mind, those two things do not match up at all. That gap between the money and the performance is what drives his takes. But Shaq also says his criticism comes from a place of wanting to push players forward. He has praised players like Anthony Edwards. He has defended others when he felt the criticism against them was unfair. The line he draws is toughness, work ethic, and respect for the past. Cross that line and Shaq is coming for you. Stay on the right side and he will have your back. That distinction matters a lot.
because of what was about to happen with Bronny James. The Bronny problem. Bronny James was selected 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2024 NBA Draft, the second round. In any normal draft year, the 55th pick barely gets mentioned. Nobody expects the 55th pick to contribute right away. Most of the time, nobody even expects the 55th pick to make the final roster. But Bronny James is not a normal 55th pick. He is LeBron James' son. And that single fact turned what should have been a quiet, low-pressure start to a professional career into the most talked about, most argued about draft selection of the year. Shaq himself acknowledged how strange the whole thing was. He pointed out that in all his time in the NBA, he had never seen a 55th pick cause so much noise. That was not him taking a shot at Bronny. That was him pointing out the obvious. The only reason anyone in the entire country cared about the 55th pick was because of the last name attached to it. And the attention started before Bronny ever put on an NBA jersey. During Summer League, Bronny struggled. He missed shots. He looked like a player still adjusting to a higher level of competition, which is exactly what he was doing. But because he was LeBron's son, every missed shot became a headline. Every bad game became a trending topic. Every analyst and commentator with a platform had an opinion about whether he even belonged in the league. And here is where Shaq did something that surprised a lot of people. He pushed back against all of that criticism. He went on his podcast and said he wanted the Heat to get off Bronny James. He called Bronny his nephew, not a blood relative. That's just a term of respect in the basketball world, a way of saying that James' family is close enough to him that he feels protective over the kid. And his protection was clear. He talked about his own children and the pressure they faced growing up as Shaq's kids. People expected them to be the next Shaq. When they were not, people used that against them. Shaq has spoken about telling his own kids that real pressure is not living up to a basketball legacy. Real pressure is not knowing where your next meal is coming from. He said, "You don't have to be like me. I want you to be better than me. And I'm not talking about as a player, as a person." That is a father speaking from experience. And he applied that same energy to Bronny's situation. He called out specific media people who were piling on. He singled out Bill Simmons for making a comment suggesting drafting Bronny was just some kind of publicity gimmick.
Shaq said that kind of talk was unnecessary and that the media was treating a teenager like content instead of like a human being. After the Summer League struggles, a reporter from TMZ caught up with Shaq and asked about Bronny. His response was short and simple. He said, "Keep playing hard, Bronny. Uncle Shaq loves you." No conditions, no analysis, just pure support from someone who understood what the kid was going through. The first father-son moment and what came after. On October 22, 2024, something happened in the NBA that had never happened before in the entire history of the league. LeBron and Bronny took the floor together for the Lakers season opener, a father and son playing in the same NBA game on the same team. It was a moment that nobody could have fully scripted. Bronny played limited minutes. He missed shots. The reaction split right down the middle. Some people celebrated the milestone for what it was, a historic moment in professional sports. Others pointed to the stat line and said he was not ready to be there. Shaq handled it on Inside the NBA. He acknowledged it as a great moment for the James family, but he was honest. He said Bronny was not going to be starting, probably not even in the second rotation, but that the kid should come in every single day and work to earn his minutes. He pointed out that very few rookies in NBA history have ever come in and immediately made a big impact. His co-host, Charles Barkley, was not nearly as gentle about it. Barkley said straight out that Bronny should be in the G League and that he was not ready for the NBA. Shaq did not agree with that. He kept his comments encouraging. He said he had known Bronny for a long time, that the kid works hard, and that he wished him nothing but the best. But even while Shaq was defending Bronny personally, he could not separate the situation from the bigger narrative he had been pushing for years. The same man telling the whole generation they accept mediocrity was now watching the most high-profile young player in the league struggle on national television. And every time Bronny struggled, it became more evidence in the public's mind, even if not in Shaq's mind, that the current generation could not handle what the legends handled. Bronny became the face of a debate he never asked to be a part of. Here is where this story gets truly interesting, and this is the part that a lot of people miss when they talk about Shaq and Bronny. On one side, Shaq is defending Bronny. He is calling him his nephew. He is telling the media to back off. He is wishing the kid well, both publicly and privately. But at the exact same time, Shaq is building a narrative on every platform he has that says the entire generation Bronny belongs to is soft, not humble enough, and does not respect the legends who built the league. In Shaq's mind, those two things can exist at the same time. Defending one kid from unfair media attention is completely separate from holding an entire generation accountable for dropping standards. He sees no contradiction there. But think about how it looks from the outside.
When you spend years telling the whole world that today's NBA players cannot handle criticism, that they are too sensitive, that they accept mediocrity, and that the whole league is gone soft, you are creating an atmosphere. And Bronny James, already under more pressure and scrutiny than any 20-year-old should ever face, has to walk through that atmosphere every single day. Shaq never called Bronny soft. Shaq never said Bronny disrespected legends. But the environment Shaq helped build made Bronny's already incredibly difficult situation even harder than it needed to be. Think about the Rudy Gobert situation. Shaq spent an entire segment on Inside the NBA refusing to acknowledge Gobert as one of the best players in the league. Gobert has won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. He gets paid over $200 million.
And Shaq just flat out said, no, he ain't one of them. Stop it. His co-hosts told him he was hating. They said it directly to his face on television. But Shaq held firm. His definition of greatness is locked into a specific era, a specific style, and a specific kind of physical dominance that he personally represented. And when he makes that argument publicly, he is not just talking about Gobert. He is building a standard that every young player in the league gets measured against, including Bronny. That comment about players getting $200 million for averaging 11 points was not just about Gobert. It was communicating something to every young player watching. It was saying the money you make does not reflect your real value. The respect you are getting is not truly earned. The era you play in has lower standards than ours. LeBron James, father first, everything else second. LeBron James has been many things throughout his career. The best player on the planet, a four-time champion, a cultural icon, a businessman. But when it comes to Bronny, LeBron has made one thing clear above everything else. He is a father first. And fathers protect their children. That protection started long before the draft even happened. In early 2023, LeBron went on social media and said Bronny was better than some of the players he had been watching on League Pass. That was a proud father hyping his son and pushing back against people who were already underestimating the kid before he had even played a single professional game. Then in early 2024, when Bronny started slipping down mock drafts, LeBron posted some tweets asking people to just let the kid be a kid and enjoy college basketball. And then he deleted those tweets. That tells you something. He knew that responding to every single criticism would only draw more attention to it. But he could not help himself. The instinct to defend his son overrode every strategic calculation. After the draft and after the Summer League struggles, LeBron sat down for an interview and gave a very honest picture of how Bronny handles all of it. He said that Bronny does not care about the critics, that he does not give a thing about what people say, that he is the coolest person, the complete opposite of his dad in that way. He posted on social media telling Bronny directly, forget all the hate because they do not know you. And when the regular season started and the criticism kept coming, LeBron's defense became more direct. He told people that if they ever actually met Bronny, they would understand how wrong they were to dismiss him. He talked about the unique pressure of growing up with a father like LeBron James, the social media trolls, the constant comparisons. He noted that he never had to deal with anything like that when he was 20 years old and just coming into the league. And then came the moment that took this entire situation to a completely different level. In January 2025, Stephen A. Smith went on First Take and said that he was begging LeBron James, as a father, to stop putting Bronny in a position where he was going to keep getting criticized for not being ready. Smith said straight out that everyone knew Bronny was in the NBA because of his dad. It was the sharpest and most public version of the nepotism argument that had been following Bronny since his high school days. On March 6, 2025, during a Lakers vs. Knicks game, LeBron walked directly over to Stephen A. Smith courtside. Reports and video showed LeBron getting right up close to Smith and telling him in very strong language to keep his son out of it. That was not about basketball analysis.
That was not about rotation minutes or draft grades or development timelines. That was a father walking up to a media person face to face and drawing a line. Stephen A. Smith later confirmed the whole thing on First Take. He said LeBron confronted him specifically about comments on Bronny. He said LeBron came at him speaking as a daddy, not as a basketball superstar. And that distinction matters more than anything. LeBron was not pulling rank as the greatest player of his generation. He was doing what any father would do. He had heard enough, and he went and said something about it. Think about the courage it actually takes to do that. LeBron James knows that everything he does gets recorded, analyzed, and talked about for days. He knew that walking up to Stephen A. Smith courtside in front of cameras was going to become a headline. He did not care. His son was being targeted, and he was not going to sit on the bench and do nothing about it. Bronny himself, straight-faced but feeling everything. Bronny James gave an interview in March 2025 where he talked about how he handles all the noise around him. He said he hears the criticism, he hears the hate, but he tries to let it go in one ear and out the other. And sometimes, he said, it actually fuels him. Then he said something that really stuck with people. He said people think he is a robot. That is a very honest and self-aware thing for a 20-year-old kid to say. The public sees a young man who never reacts, who keeps a straight face through everything, and they assume it does not affect him. But Bronny was telling the world that he feels all of it. He just does not let it control him. After his first basket in Cleveland, the arena where his father spent years building his legend, Bronny described the reaction of the crowd and what he felt inside. He said it was insane, way more than he expected. And then he said something that really captured who he is as a person. He said, "I was straight-faced, but I felt it, and it felt pretty good." Straight-faced, but feeling everything. That is Bronny James in one sentence. And LeBron, watching from the same court, described it from a parent's point of view. He said he believed Bronny was better than he himself would have been in that same situation. LeBron James, a man who has handled more pressure on a basketball court than almost anyone alive, said his 20-year-old son might actually be tougher than he was at that age. 20,000 fans screaming a name, cameras everywhere, history being made, and Bronny keeps his face completely still and just plays. The bigger picture. Old generation versus new generation. This whole story is not really about Shaq versus Bronny, and it is not really about LeBron either. It's about a tension that runs through professional basketball and honestly through professional sports in general. A tension between the people who built something and the people who came after them. Shaq's generation measures everything against a specific kind of hardship. They played through injuries that today would have guys sitting out for weeks. They took hard fouls without running to the referee about it. They made less money in an era with smaller television deals and fewer endorsement opportunities. And they believe with everything in them that those conditions, the pain, the lower pay, the relentless competition, are what made them the players they became. When they look at the current generation and see load management and $100 million contracts for role players and players who respond to criticism with a social media post instead of a better performance the next game, they feel disrespected. Not personally disrespected, historically disrespected. They feel like the sacrifices they made are being treated like they never happened by people who are walking through doors that those sacrifices opened. Shaq has been saying this with all the volume he has. On TNT, on his podcast, on social media, he has been delivering the same message over and over.
The modern NBA has lower standards than the era he came from, and the people in it need to be held accountable to something higher. But here is the problem with that message. When you are building a bonfire that big, you cannot be surprised when the people standing closest to it get burned the most. Every time Shaq went on television and told the world that today's players are soft and entitled and accepting of mediocrity, he added more wood to the fire that Bronny James had to walk through every single day. Not because Shaq was targeting Bronny, but because Bronny was already the most visible young player in the league, and that fire was everywhere. Shaq never turned on Bronny personally. He kept his defense of the kid separate from his criticism of the era. But those two things are not as separate as Shaq wants them to be. The atmosphere he helped create made the most difficult situation a young player has ever faced in the NBA even harder. What this whole story actually tells us. By Bronny's second season in 2025 to 2026, something shifted. The conversation around him started moving away from controversy. It moved toward on-court progress. People started asking how much he had improved, instead of asking whether he belonged. The noise did not disappear completely, but it got quieter. And LeBron, who had spent a year fighting off critics with everything he had, got to do what he wanted to do from the very beginning, just be a father watching his son play basketball. And that is really what all of this comes back to. Shaq can talk about toughness all he wants. The legends can compare every young player to Jordan and Kobe and Shaq himself and find them lacking. That debate will never fully go away because that is just how generational comparisons in sports work. But when the spotlight turned to a 20-year-old kid who had done nothing wrong except have a famous last name, the response should have been simple. Bronny James showed up every single day. He worked. He stayed quiet when most people in his position would have snapped. He kept his face straight when 20,000 fans were screaming around him. He let his game speak, and he kept grinding even when the entire media world was telling him he did not belong. That is the thing about Bronny James that people keep missing when they talk about this story.
The whole narrative Shaq has been pushing is that the new generation does not work hard enough, does not respect enough, does not want it enough. But Bronny James has been proving that wrong every single day, silently, without any drama, without any tweets or press conferences or social media replies. And LeBron James, watching all of it unfold, did the only thing a father can do. He protected his son. He showed up. He told the people who crossed the line exactly where the line was. Not because he was trying to use his platform, not because he was playing media games, but because when someone comes after your child, you show up. You say something. You make it known that there are consequences for crossing that line. LeBron said it best himself. It does not cost you a dime to be nice to people, not a single dime, and it costs even less to leave a kid alone and just let him play the game he loves. So ask yourself this question honestly. Who was really out of line here? Was it Bronny for joking around about NBA legends the way any young player might? Or was it the entire machine, the media, the legends, the narrative, the whole conversation for deciding that this one kid was going to carry the weight of a generational debate on his shoulders before he even played his first regular season NBA minute? Leave your answer in the comments because this conversation is far from over.